I should have gotten myself something to sit on because sitting on the floor is actually really cold on my butt. Hello everyone, it's me Tabea and I'm coming back at you for another episode of This Is Not Quite a Degree, where we talk about things that I don't have a degree in but I do have opinions on. And today I want to talk about feminism and starting with being a feminist, if you will. I'm realizing that I am coming at you again in another leopard blouse. I do actually, as you can see here, have several of those. And yes, if that becomes my brand, I am 100% alright with that. Yeah, welcome back everyone. I'm so happy to talk to you. I just had a coffee this afternoon and that kind of fueled my creative juices to be like, I want to come back and talk to y'all because that's what I want to do. So, feminism. How did that all happen? I genuinely don't really know. I just feel like over the past year I've been kind of starting to look around, and I feel like I've talked about this before, to see what are causes that are important for me, that are important in my life and my surroundings, that are A, worth supporting, and B, also things that I probably should know more about than I do. And again and again I kind of just came across the kind of notion of just being female in whatever situation it is in life, be it at school, be it at my job, or just kind of generally in life. I've been thinking a lot about that topic lately, and yeah, I wanted to educate myself and maybe share with you what I've learned and kind of some resources that I've been using in the last weeks to learn more about what feminism is and how to apply it to my daily life, if you will. I have a couple books and I have a couple magazines. I also have something that you can watch online, so I'd be happy if you'd stick around and then we can kind of see if you find something that you find interesting and that might spark a little bit of inspiration in you. I want to start with this because I feel like I've talked about this in my video last week. Yeah, I didn't show the book, but I talked about it. I have read this absolute beauty of a book. It's The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer, and I am so happy that I'm actually owning a physical copy of this book because it will be dear to my heart forever. Like, this book, where's like a good page to show you? Like, I've actually, can you see that? No, I don't think you can see that, but like I have annotated this book, and I never annotate books. Partly because I started it when I was on a flight, literally having a panic attack. I never have panic attacks, but I did on that flight. And so I was like, I need something to distract me right now. And so I got out the book and I started reading, and I was like, okay, I'm really into this. So I got out a pen and I just started writing in the book, and I was just like, oh, this is so good. This is like so distracting for me right now. And I made it through the flight safely. So thank you, Meg Wolitzer. You saved my butt there. But also, this is just an amazing book if you feel like you need some empowerment, you feel like you need some mentorship in life, and just kind of like good feelings and good feminine energy. Like, it's a story about a girl basically who is at university, and at university through a friend she kind of comes across this female mentor who's already like an outrageous feminist and like apparently vividly known in the community in that book. And she kind of happens to meet her one-on-one, and then later on she goes to work for her and just kind of goes through, you know, just a lot of trouble that A, comes with growing up, and B, comes with working in an NGO feminism environment. And it's super interesting because the characters are really, really well written. There's her boyfriend, there's her best friend who kind of take the side tracks to the story. But they're so well done as well that you're just kind of, you feel with every character, and you can really feel their struggles, but you can also feel like their uphill routes that they take in their lives, where you're just like, yeah, I feel you, and I'm like, I've been there, or I can see myself eventually getting to that point, and I can totally see why you do what you do, even though it, you know, might not make sense at first. And I just really, really enjoyed the book. In the terms of feminism, I feel like it's just kind of, even though it is fiction, gives a very nice introduction to what it's like to work in that area and like actually work for an NGO that fights for something so broad and yet so you know, particular in some cases, and how hard that might also be in some situations, and how you have to make sacrifices to, you know, support a greater cause sometimes. I just really, really enjoyed it, and even though it's not technically something where you can like educate yourself formally on feminism, I would totally recommend it to anybody who just kind of wants to get like a creative head start with it and just kind of, you know, get yourself amped up for it. And also, I mean, the cover, like, I love it. Like, I saw it on the shelves and I was just like, need to get a copy. And I actually waited until I was over in the US to get the English copy, because I've also read The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer, I want to say 3 years ago, and I had an American copy there as well, which I really enjoyed. So I was like, I'm not going to read the translation, I want to read the real deal. Having read Meg Wolitzer's book, I was like, okay, so I have gotten my head start. I feel like I'm in a really good space to think and talk about this right now with, you know, kind of get into the conversation. And I was like, well, but it's not like it's a completely new thing to my life. So I've kind of looked at, okay, what are resources that I have been dealing with before that I could share with you guys, that are really easily accessible, if you want to kind of, you know, get a bit of like feminist energy into your life. And there's a magazine that I've actually been reading since I was about 16, when I was in the United States as an exchange student, called Bust. Oh, can you see that? I think you can, yeah. It's Bust magazine. It's super well known in the feminist world. Like if you Google female magazines or feminist magazines, you'll definitely come across it. I just want to give them a quick shout out because they've just released the new issue, and you can get it as an e-paper very, very easily, and it's really cheap. It's $15 a year only for a subscription that you get 4 issues, I believe. On your iPad or whatever device you use. It's really, really well designed. There's awesome articles in it, and I just really, really enjoy it every time I read it. So yeah, if that's something you want to do, go for it. So having read Bust for a while, I was like, okay, you know, so I know that that's a thing and I love it, but is there anything else? And so I've been kind of Googling and looking around, and actually I've come across, and I put the website below, a list that has been put together by a foundation that supports feminism, of just like a whole range of feminist media. And through that, I've come across a magazine that I've never heard about before, and apparently is not very well known either, as opposed to Bust. This one, it's, can you see that? It's a woman's review of books. I'm kind of, you know, ooh, yes. So, I was a little intrigued by their website, because let's put it that way, it's not the most modern system that they're using, and the magazine itself is also, you know, design-wise, let's put it that way, not on the forefront of things. Nonetheless to say though, their articles are really, really great. So this magazine is a publication that comes out, I want to say several times a year too, maybe every couple months, where they review basically a lot of literature that's just come out that's written by women and female authors that are not really featured in a lot of the other big review papers for literature, and they've been doing it apparently for years and years and years, because as I learned from this particular issue, their readership apparently is like between 50 and 19 years old. Like 80% of their readers are like really in the advanced stages of their lives, and I'm like, why though? You know, the topics that they cover are amazing. Like they write such good articles. I've actually read an article in there that talks about the program Girls Right Now in New York that supports young female authors for a whole year with mentorship and everything, and I was like, why is that, you know, how did that end up in there? It's like such a great publication, you know, how do they not have more sponsorship? And I was just like really amazed by the quality of their articles, so I would totally advise anybody to look at it, and it's not very expensive. You can get it issue by issue, so really cool if you like literature, if you like feminism, and if you kind of want to support a cause that apparently doesn't get very much media. So go for it. It's really, really, really nicely done. That was all more kind of on the entertaining literature arts side of thing, and I felt like you know, while I get the energy from that, like the empowerment energy that I'm looking for a lot of times in feminism, I still felt like I was not educated enough on like the stance on topic itself. I was actually suggested talks that are kind of like in the TEDx setting, I would say, by the Sydney Opera House, which is surprising because I've never been recommended anything from Australia before except maybe Annika Victoria, but I don't really see any connection between those two, so I'm just kind of like, how did that happen? But oh well, it did. And they hosted a conference, you might want to call it, this year, where they had a whole weekend just like for feminism, where they had panels and I don't really know what else, but like a whole program basically centered around feminism called All About Women. If I got it right, they've done it for the 6th time. I don't know if that program is still running next year. If so, I would love to go, but Australia is kind of far away, but anyway. And they have this amazing video online. It's an hour and a half long, where they have 4 women, each talking about one wave of feminism. So we have a history professor talking about the first wave of the suffragettes, around like the turn of the century, 19th to 20th century, up to today, talking about like all the different waves. It was so interesting because it was very educational, and also in the end they had like a panel where they talked to each other, where they talked to the audience and answered questions, and it was like such a good way to get started with like kind of building based knowledge, that I was like, hey, why does this have not more clicks? Because it's really, really good. And if you have an hour and a half, I totally recommend you watch it. I put it in the link below. And it's just very, very interesting. And the cool thing about it is they also split it up, so you can watch like the talks on the different waves of feminism individually as well, if you're like, okay, I don't want to skip through a video that's an hour and a half long, which I thought was a really cool deal as well. Also, another tip, and I am not 100% sure if that is actually on the same site or on the same channel of the Sydney Opera House, or if I found that somewhere else, but I feel like that was the first thing that I found, and then I got to that talking video. There is videos that are like a minute and a half long that basically cover an entire wave of feminism in like this really cool artistic style. They're super short, but they give you like this glimpse of each wave, and basically you know when it happened, what happened, and why it happened. And I'll put those below too, because I just thought like, yeah, this is so cool, you know, a minute and a half and you kind of know what it's all about. If you're like, okay, I have all my entertainment in, I have my videos in, like I am decently up to date with what feminism is, and I kind of want to dive deeper into that, I also got you covered, because I got myself covered with these little things. Books, yes! Do some more reading, because reading helps in a lot of ways. You wouldn't think it does, eh? I actually this summer have read the biography of Virginia Woolf before the whole kind of feminist train started in my life, which was really cool. And now I read the biography of Simone de Beauvoir. Both of them are kind of, well, Virginia Woolf I kind of want to say is somewhat considered a feminist. I don't think she ever called herself that. And Simone de Beauvoir actually did later in her life. And it was just super interesting to get to know these two characters and know what their path in life was, and kind of understand how to place them in the kind of whole time frame that is the 20th century, and know what happened in their life, what decisions they made, how they got to kind of into like an empowerment position. For Virginia Woolf, I was actually very surprised to see how, I would say, independent she was, and yet at the same time how much she struggled with like mental illness, even though that, I mean, I guess it wasn't like a social topic back then, but it's just like a really interesting insight to see like the ups and downs in her life, and how she always came back to work, and how she like kind of took the stage. And even though it was like an absolutely man-ruled publishing world back then, and she was just like, I'm here and I'm running a publishing company with my husband, and we're just kind of putting out books and putting out magazines, and I'm like, girl, you go, you know. I mean, she found a very, very sad end, which I didn't know before, but she had a very interesting life actually, besides writing books like A Room of One's Own, which is, I'd say, one of the more known ones when you kind of read about her and feminism. So I totally advise you to do that. And also Simone de Beauvoir, I feel like I always say that wrong. Same thing, like I always thought like, oh yeah, she's like this huge feminist figure, and turns out actually for most of her life she wasn't, which I just genuinely didn't know before. And so I thought it was super interesting to see how like throughout her whole career she's kind of come to always learn something new and then apply it to her life. I thought it was really inspirational, really, reading her biography, and at the same time it kind of showed me certain things which was like, okay, maybe she wasn't all that great in every aspect of her life. Like, there's always more facets than just what you see when you basically Google somebody, when you read their biography. And so this is what I've been reading and consuming in different ways to educate myself more on feminism, and what I would kind of advise you to maybe look into if you want to kind of get started with the topic, and if you're just like me, like, I don't really know that much about it, but I'm interested. I hope that video was kind of interesting. I hope the coffee that I had helped to kind of bring across the energy. And I would be very, very happy to say hi again next week, or if you want to watch some of my other videos, that'd be cool too. Feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear what you read. Feminist, non-feminist, I'm just kind of, it's winter, so why not take some reading recommendations? And yeah, thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye!